welcome to this week's Ruby Shoes podcast, delivering the very best local entertainment news across East Anglia each and every week. Hope you had a wonderful bank holiday. This week on the Ruby Shoes podcast, another busy episode. First, we chat to one of the directors and a performer for this year's First Light Festival, which all happens next month on the wonderfully golden sandy beach in Lowestoft. Then we hear from an author who's created a book about his life's passion. And finally, we chat to the director of a play, which is coming to the region with an intriguing title. And as always, a roundup of some of the region's theatre shows you won't want to miss. The UK's only free beachfront festival returns to Lowestoft South Beach across Saturday the 21st and Sunday the 22nd of June. It is, of course, the First Light Festival. Here to tell us more about this year's events is festival director Genevieve Christie and performer Lottie Gray. Genevieve, if I can start with you, if people have yet to experience the wonder that is the First Light Festival, can you describe it for us in a nutshell?
Oh, well, First Light Festival takes place in midsummer, and it's all about really celebrating being in the most easterly place in midsummer on one of the most fantastic beaches in the country. It's a multi-arts festival, which means that it's got lots of dance, music, visual art, as well as science. And really, it's for everybody. It's a free access festival. So you can come along and have a fantastic weekend, without having to pay extortionate prices. And you can also wild camp on the beach, which is wonderful. It's shining a light actually on Lowestoft as well. So all sorts of things.
It is. And as you said, you've got this beautiful sandy beach. We're all really jealous. I'm based at Felixstowe. We have lots of pebbles on the east coast. And somehow Lowestoft has this fabulous golden strip of beach. I don't know why that's happened, but you're very, very lucky to have it. Tell us about some of the performers you've got this year.
Well, we've got a wonderful sort of mix of performers. So the festival really has lots of different zones, and we have our main stage, which is called the Sunlight Stage, and we have some great performers there. Nubian Twist are a wonderful kind of mixed genre band. Molotov Jukebox, they are also sort of dance and party band. Merry Hell Folk. We have our big sort of community events. We open the festival with something called Welcome the Light, and this year we are creating a new sea shanty for Lowestoft with all sorts of people taking part, which will be fantastic. We have, a world music big band, because the first day of the festival is World Music Day. We have kind of up and coming musicians. We've got Caswell, who's a great young performer. And then, of course, we also have our New Dawn and Play Break performers, which are the sort of apply to play part of what we do. So that's on sort of music side of things. We've also got, fantastic dance in the Moon Dance tent to watch and to take part in. So a ceilidh for everybody to get involved in, line dancing, which is my favourite actually. We've got Jackie Kay, the poet, in our First Word tent, and Caroline Bird, as well as a whole weekend of spoken word artists, comedians and poets. We have what we call our sundown events, and that's what happens on the Saturday night when we sort of leave the beach and get into other venues. And Brian Bilston is our much loved poet who's going to be at the Seagull Theatre, which I'm really looking forward to as well. And then there's lots of things for people to sort of get involved in, making a willow boat this year with your family, getting involved in HMS Doodle, which is a kind of drawing activity, and of course our whole science zone as well, which I could go on about at great length, but yes, all sorts of things.
Oh my goodness. I mean, they often say, don't they, something for the whole family, but there really is with this festival, isn't there? And what I love about it is across the Saturday and the Sunday, it starts at 12, goes through till 9:30. All of those events are free. And then if you want to attend the sundown events, then it's ticketed. But I mean, that's amazing, because families nowadays, it's quite hard to find free entertainment for the whole family. And then Sunday you're starting obviously very early in the morning, 3:30 to gather on the beach so you can enjoy the sunrise celebration. And then it goes right through until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And again, you've got more lovely solstice sun. Now, you talked about performers. You talked about the 2 stages you've got. Very happy to be joined by Lottie Gray. She's one of your performers this year. So, Lottie, let me bring you into the conversation. Tell me about your performance and what can the audience expect from you?
So I'm a folk pop singer-songwriter. I've been playing at the festival for I think this will be my 4th year now, and I've been part of their Apply to Play New Dawn stage for the past 3 years. Last year I was really lucky to headline it, and they're on their new acoustic stage, so it's going to be a really great lineup. I'm really excited to watch everybody else as well, and yeah, expect like singer-songwriter kind of chill vibes. So yeah.
Oh, it sounds great, Lottie. And what does it feel like to be standing on the stage and looking out across that beautiful beachfront, but with all the faces looking back at you, all smiling up? It must be an amazing boost.
It absolutely is. It's so much fun. Last year I did it with my band and we just had the best time. It's just a lovely audience of people who just absolutely loving the music, and the beach is just beautiful, and we usually have amazing weather, so really can't complain at all. So
Oh, definitely. Genevieve, I'm sure you've already booked the weather. Now, tell us how people can find out more.
You can go onto our website, which is www.firstlightlowestoft.com, or on Instagram, Facebook. We're on all of those platforms, usually at First Light. You'll find us. Yes, and sign up and find out more. But there should be plenty of information online about every aspect of the festival.
Oh, definitely. Now, this all happens at South Beach in Lowestoft. And it's, as I said before, between Saturday the 21st and Sunday the 22nd of June. So not too far away. Good luck, both of you. I know it's going to be another amazing festival. And this is all run by volunteers. I think that's important to say. So you have a huge amount of work.
We do have a team. We do have a team, but we have volunteers really helping us over the whole weekend. Yes.
Yeah, well done to all of you for pulling this and really shining the light on Lowestoft, because it is a beautiful place. It's well worth going to, and I wish you all the very best of luck with it. Have a lovely day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
A hedge, yes, is a leafy line of beauty, but for one Suffolk author, it's also so much more. So much so, he's written a brand new book all about his love of hedges and what they mean for our countryside and its wildlife. Richard Negus, thank you so much for joining us for Ruby Shoes podcast. It's lovely to be talking to you. Tell us, first of all, a little bit about yourself.
Well, hello, Steph. I am a professional hedge layer, and I live in Finningham in the middle of rural mid-Suffolk. And my job is largely supporting farmers to help increase the biodiversity on their farms by managing their hedgerows in a way that increases their habitat benefit. And I've been doing this for quite a long while now. And I suppose, I go past people and they'll go and say, "You're the hedge bloke, aren't you?" And they're not really interested in the fact that I write. So my writing is almost to the point. They go, "Oh, I don't know, there's lots of writers in Suffolk, but there aren't very many hedge layers." So I suppose I'm that hedge bloke who comes from Finningham. That's really me.
Well, that's fair enough. Well, tell us about the new book, because, as you say, you are also a writer. It's called Words from the Hedge. What inspired it?
Well, hedge laying is a very seasonal job. And so I work from the first day of September through to the last day of March. And so therefore my spring and summer tend to be a bit light, other than doing hedgerow management plans in the sort of back end after harvest. So I started writing for a quite large number of magazines and newspapers about farming and the countryside and the nature that I see around me. And in those articles, you're always restricted by, if it's a piece for the East Anglian, there'll be 800 words. If you write for the Critic, they might stretch to 1,600. And I just thought there's so much to tell about not just the hedgerow, but how the hedgerow links habitats together, links people together. and links farms together, and how integral they are, and sometimes are forgotten, sometimes a hot topic, but it looks more often than not they're forgotten. So I thought it was about time that I didn't just write a piece about, oh, hello, I'm a Suffolk hedge layer, isn't that quaint and cute? Is more explain the warts and all about how we work on the land. And lots of people know something about farming, but very few know about what we do in the edges, in the margins of these vast arable fields we've got. And so I wrote a book about it, and it took me nearly 3 years to complete, because a lot of the time I wanted to write each piece immediately after I'd finished work that day. So I'd get in at, I don't know, 5:30 when it got dark, something like that. And I'd have some dinner, and then I'd sit down and write. And sometimes I'd look at my watch and think, my Lord, it's 3 o'clock in the morning and I've got to get up and go to work again tomorrow. So it took me a long while to write and a lot of bags under my eyes. But I think what I've achieved in doing is giving a bit of a warts and all view, not just of the hedgerow, but of the other countryside issues that surround our hedgerows. And some of it's beautiful and some of it's pretty stark and almost bleak, I guess. But that's what inspired me. And I thought, well, let me show people what I see of the countryside through my eyes as a professional hedge layer.
Well, you also talk about the philosophy of the human nature partnership that the hedge embodies. Can you kind of explain that for us? I mean, I know you've written a whole book about this, but just kind of give us an idea of you know, how you see that.
Yes. Well, I say that the hedge is the perfect embodiment. In fact, I'll do a spoiler alert. I think the last line in the book is the hedgerow is the very best of us being human beings. Because a lot of nature writers almost try to turn human beings into the all our point is in the natural world is that we aren't part of it and that we're destroyers of worlds. And they've got some justification. You've only got to look at the pollution that goes on. You've only got to look along the rubbish that's chucked along the side of the A14 or the B1060 sticks. You know, we are dirty creatures as well as being constructive. But I think that the philosophy I have is every single hedgerow is man-made. There's no such thing. You couldn't rewild a hedge. A hedgerow is only a hedgerow because we humans planted it for an agricultural reason. We then manage that hedgerow, usually for an agricultural reason. And wildlife has discovered that that hedgerow is something that is beneficial to them. And it's only in the last probably 20 years or so that we've really understood that our management techniques, if done right, makes it an even better habitat for wildlife. So that wildlife in this instant with the hedgerow relies completely upon we humans doing the right thing. And that philosophy of how we're on a personal hands-on, and my hands are pretty scarred up courtesy of doing it, is it's very human meets wildlife. So we are part of nature. But also I think that they link people together, a hedgerow. You know, you think of how a hedgerow, a lot of the times the oldest ones we have in our county is how the hundreds are separated. So it's not just the parish boundaries, it's how our hundreds in Suffolk were separated, you know, whether you live in the Gipping hundred or whether you live in the Hartersmere hundred. There are some ancient hedgerows there which were separating one boundary from another. So the hedgerow could both be a barrier, but it was also quite frequently on those hundreds, there'll be a lane running along there. So they led us from one place to another. And I laid a hedge up in Norfolk, last one of last season, and that was along a really ancient track going to a little tiny church near Renningham. And I thought, I wonder how many people over the millennia have walked past that hedgerow and they've heard a chaffinch singing in there, or they've watched a yellowhammer flitting in and out when they're nesting. And there is a sort of level of permanence about hedgerows, which is a beautiful thing. Yet they're also a fluctuating thing as well is that, everyone says, oh, we all grubbed all our hedgerows out in 1946 after the war. Well, that's not true. We lost them in waves before, and it's usually reflecting of how agricultural economies are, or it's reflecting of how agricultural practices change. When we shifted from sheep to mixed farming to arables, whether the hedgerow has a need. And yet, if you speak to the old farm workers, even some of the old boys who are old enough so they remember grubbing them out in the 50s and 60s, they said it was a job I didn't want to do, but I was told I had to do it. And you speak to the old farmers and they'll say, well, we didn't want to do it, but the government told us to do it. And there was one old boy at Westhorpe who was chuckling away when I was coppicing a hedge. And he said, I can remember grubbing that thing out with a digger. And he said, I can remember when that was then replanted. And he said, and here you are coppicing it, which is what I used to do before we grubbed all the hedges out. So there's this lovely cyclical thing that old boy remembers hedgerows as part and parcel of his farming life. And that's something I think, I don't want to get wafty about it. People get too teary-eyed a lot of the time about our landscape. Well, it's a living thing. It's a practical thing. It's my workplace. And so I guess, yes, not too much philosophy, but there is a philosophy there.
Oh, there absolutely is. And I totally get what you're saying. You're basically saying, if we can work hand in hand with nature, we can almost provide a platform for nature. We can go that one step further, as you do, literally with a hedge. Richard, if anybody's going to make an interesting book about hedges, it's you. I mean, you literally live and breathe them, but you do. I can just imagine you literally out in the field planting hedge, thinking, I could do it with my notepad right now because I've just thought of something I want to write. Did you feel like that when you were literally out there? Were you getting inspiration as you were planting and thinking, I could do with writing that down now? Did you have a notepad with you, or did you just manage to keep it all in your head until you got home at night and then, as you say, wrote into the wee small hours?
Sometimes I'll use my mobile phone to record a voice note. I've got a business partner who I work with, Richard Gould, and other than the fact he comes from Norfolk, which we won't hold that against him, he's full of very sage observations. And sometimes our conversations that we would have when we stop for a cup of tea out the flask, or before we start work, or when we stop for lunch, there are things there where I'd record him because I'd observe something and I'd say, do you think that's because of that? And he would then say something. And I thought, do you know what? If we don't pass that information on, I mean, I discovered this one funny thing, right, is we heard one day we were laying a hedge and I heard this blackbird doing an alarm call. And you do hear a slightly different thing. They go chang, 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 or they go chit, 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 chit. And he said, and it went chit, 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 chit. And he said, do you know what? He said, there'll be a stoat around somewhere. And I said, well, how do you know that's a stoat? And he said, well, they go chit, chit, chit when there's a danger on the ground, or chang, chang, chang when there's danger overhead, a hawk or something like that.
Wow.
And I said, loads of old nonsense. Well, I got my binoculars out, which always sit in the door, that pocket of my truck. And I put my binos up and I looked at where this sort of blackbird was roughly about. And sure enough, out comes this little tiny stoat on the hunt for something else. And I thought, my Lord. But I thought, you never hear that.
No,
wildlife,
I didn't know
nature.
That.
No. And nature and wildlife programs now have become so elaborate. And they've always got to have a wow factor. They've always got to go to some far-flung place. You watch nature programs on all sorts of channels, and they're always going and looking at I don't know, the wildlife of the Arctic, or the wildlife in this jungle and that jungle.
It's got to be really extreme, isn't it, as you say?
Yes, and just the life in a hedgerow, a British hedgerow, that you see and you find wonder in it. That there is something that etches itself into my memory. So I never really struggled to remember what I had. And I was given some advice. My agent, Emma Shercliffe, who's based in Laxfield, actually, she said the most important thing, she said, is to keep a structure when you're writing a book. And she said, you say you want to say, because anyone who knows me say I'll ramble off on tangents. And she said,
Surely
just try
not.
and bring. No, well, I know it's very cruel and wholly worthy. Actually, that is exactly what I do. But she said, keep those little bullet points of where you want to get to. And she said, then let yourself ramble off. She said, but as long as it links back to where you need to be. And I think that was where, and I was also extremely fortunate, is that my editor at my publisher Unbound, Patrick Galbraith, who's a very accomplished author in his own right, he had been the editor of the Shooting Times back when I wrote for the Shooting Times for about 7 years, something like that. And when he was editor there, he knew my writing inside out. And so he was able to edit it with a much greater insight into me when I'd written the tome.
So your voice could still come through, I take it. He didn't kind of sanitize you to the point of you've suddenly lost who Richard Negus is. You know, your voice is still in the book. I think in itself, you could literally, Words from the Hedge would be a perfect title for a podcast, Richard. I think that should be your next project. You've done your book. I think you now need to do a podcast. Well, bring in your friend that you were talking about. You can talk about blackbirds and stoats and what's that thing. I think that would be absolutely fascinating. We could talk all day about this, but we really mustn't because. But I do want to know about the book. It's called Words from the Hedge. How can people get hold of it?
Okay. So you can go and buy it direct from the publisher, which is unbound.com. Or better still, and I'm a huge fan of local bookshops. So I am doing a rather massive tour, actually, not just of Suffolk and Norfolk bookshops, but I'm going to all sorts of places, like down to Exeter, the Cheltenham Science Festival and the Game Fair, and we have the Suffolk Show. But you can buy, I would suggest, from any one of the Suffolk bookshops. And we launch it on May the 3rd at the Aldeburgh Bookshop in the evening, 6 o'clock. And then it's at Wicken Vineyards, Harris and Harris in Clare, Woodbridge Books, Stillwater Books in Felixstowe, Snape Maltings, Otti and the Bee in Framlingham, Diss Bookshop, Halesworth Bookshop, Byron and the Bard, Southwall Books, the Food Museum in Stowmarket, Waterstones. Now, they're all the Suffolk ones.
Brilliant.
And it's obviously in all other good bookshops. But, I mean, I would urge folks, why not go in and have a bit of a browse in a bookshop?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree with you more. Richard, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. And well done. It's not easy writing a book. You know, that's the hard bit. And now you've got to do the book tour and people are going to ask you questions like I've just asked you and you've got to say it a million times over and all the book signing and everything else. But well done. It really does sound like a fantastic project that you've done here. And don't forget, if you do launch a podcast, it was my idea.
Thank you very much.
Always good to talk to you. You take care.
Thanks. Bye.
Play Nicely Theatre is currently on tour with a brand new production. There is light and a whistle for attracting attention. It's a play for anybody who's loved and lost and loved again. And here to tell us more is the play's director, Sophia Capasso. Sophia, thanks for joining us today. Tell us more about the story because I'm completely intrigued.
We get asked this a lot. I think the title's a little bit ambiguous. It's a really fun one-woman show. It is about love. It's a woman coming to terms with the end of a relationship, but she's looking at it through the lenses of all the stories she's heard growing up about women in love. And she's analysing how these have impacted her view on love. So we go through all sorts of different bits and pieces from the little show synopsis. You'll see we dive into Greece, but we also go through Greek mythology. There's some Shakespeare in there. There's some classics for those who've studied English at A-level. But at the heart of it is a really raw and true story about a woman navigating doing life on her own.
Oh, wow, because it's written all by Henry Mirren. And do you know what inspired this? I mean, obviously it's a true story, but do you know sort of what the background is, how it came about to Henry?
Yeah, this is Henry's. She's a fantastic actor, and she's been on the scene, certainly in East Anglia, for a very long time. So people may have seen her in a few different productions. This is her debut play as a writer. And it's been a couple of years in the making. It started out as an R&D that was supported by the Seagull Theatre in 2023, and it's obviously now on quite an extensive tour. There's a lot of autobiography in there, and a lot of her own work looking at the stories that she's heard about love. But I think it's morphed into something more now, and it really is about the character Her. The character is called Her so that, everyone can relate to her. But it's now moved into this idea of how you navigate when you lose the trust within yourself. So I think part of rewriting that history for her was learning to look at her own experiences and to trust her experience of those.
And you say it's a one-woman show. Who is starring in this?
Henry herself is starring in it. So it's
okay.
It's a massive undertaking for her, and I think it's so exciting, and she's fantastic. I would urge anyone who's near any of the venues it's touring to go and see it, because she's a powerhouse. She's a really fantastic actress and storyteller. But she's performing in it. She's written it. It's being co-directed by Play Nicely and Mark Fimbo, who also works with the Seagull. And it's a fab piece of work.
Oh, it certainly sounds it. Now, you've mentioned the tour. It began at the Seagull Theatre on the 14th of May. Then it's going across to East Anglia, literally going across East Anglia in the UK, right until the 27th of July. It's going to touch down in Ipswich on Wednesday, the 28th of May, Eastern Angle Centre. And then on the 5th of June, you can catch it at the Norwich Puppet Theatre, and the 6th of June at Sudbury Quay Theatre, just to mention a couple of the places. But there are plenty more to see this fantastic new piece of theatre in Suffolk and Norfolk as it goes across its tour of the UK. When the tour's finished, what's next for the play, would you think? And I want to ask that question also personally of you, Sophia.
Well, Henry and I have decided pretty boldly that obviously after the end of the tour, we'll just naturally move on to the West End transfer. We might be being a little bit ambitious there. I think certainly a big sleep for Henry will be needed, because it's a massive undertaking. It's a big tour, and it is just her on that stage. So I think a bit of a breather. And then I guess we'll have a little chat and see if she wants to do it in a static venue. We'll have to see. I mean, I'd love to work with her again. I think she's fantastic. I'm going to drop in on a few more of the plays at different venues so that she's not on her own with it. And then for me, I'm working on securing some funding, which is that big F word in theatre, to hopefully tour a new show called On the Overground that I worked at previously in autumn as an R&D. And then I don't know, really. I'm going to wait and see what the universe throws at me. I've got a little short film to finish, and I should probably do some writing myself. But I just need to trick myself into sitting down with the laptop and doing that.
That's always the difficulty, isn't it? It's too easy just to be drawn off doing other things. I know exactly how you feel. You sound a very sweet lady, Sophia. So I really appreciate you talking to us today.
Oh, my pleasure.
If you want to get your tickets, you need to go to playnicelytheatre.com, and you can find out whereabouts it's going to be touring across Suffolk and Norfolk. And if you do get to do some more across Suffolk and Norfolk, Sophia, do get back in touch with us. We'd love to talk to you again.
Oh, I absolutely will. Thank you so much.
No problem at all. It's been a pleasure to talk to you, and good luck with the rest of the tour. We hope to catch it at some point, and then we can do a review for you as well here on the podcast.
Well, yeah, do let us know. We'll come and join you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Sophia. You take care.
Thank you. You too.
What's on across Suffolk with Stephanie McIntyre, sponsored by Ruby Shoes Podcast, your weekly entertainment news podcast, available from your smart speaker, Apple, Spotify, or you just follow Ruby Shoes Podcast on Facebook and click on the weekly podcast link to listen.
There's a host of great shows on offer across Suffolk's magnificent theatres, and here's just a selection to tempt you. Monday the 26th of May at the Thorrington Open Air Amphitheatre, Pinch Punch welcomes you aboard Locomotive for Murder, the improvised whodunit, a totally improvised, totally outrageous murder mystery where killing the cast and cracking the case is in your hands. Expect dubious accents and shaky alibis, along with thrills, spills and good old-fashioned kills. 4 characters board a train, but not everyone will survive. Thankfully, a world-famous detective is on board, ready to solve the case. But who's the murderer? Only one person in the show knows. the murderer themselves. Can you help the detective solve the case? Don't forget, arrive early with a picnic, and dogs are welcome there too. Find out all about this and the rest of their outdoor theatre performances this summer. Go to thoringtontheatre.co.uk. Wednesday the 28th of May, this time from 2:30pm at the Key Theatre in Sudbury. Magic and Marvels, step right up and prepare to be amazed by the one-man extravaganza Magic and Marvels, presented by the extraordinary and multi-skilled performer Michael Jordan. Get ready to embark on a thrilling journey into the realm of wonder and enchantment as Michael showcases his incredible talents in magic and circus acts. Direct from the iconic Blackpool Tower Circus and the prestigious International Festival de Magie, Michael effortlessly blends mesmerising magic with awe-inspiring feats of juggling and daring stunts. With his captivating showmanship, he'll leave you on the edge of your seat, gasping with disbelief and cheering for more. Go to keysudbury.com for your tickets. Friday the 30th of May at 7:30pm at the Spa Pavilion Theatre in Felixstowe, attention all Swifties. Taylor Fever is the electrifying tribute production to a worldwide megastar Taylor Swift, in a show that's packed full of the icon's most popular songs, including Karma, Shake It Off, Cruel Summer and many more. Audiences of all ages will be up on their feet dancing and singing along. Alongside her incredible dancers, Taylor Fever is taking UK and European theatres and arenas by storm, and for one night only it comes to Felixstowe. To find out more, go to spapavilion.uk. On Saturday the 31st of May at the New Wolsey Theatre from 2pm, their free annual community event is back. Packed with live entertainment, cosplay characters, retro arcade games, face painting, arts and crafts, and even the chance to be on stage, the big afternoon is an event for the whole family to enjoy. This event is free, however they do appreciate those attending to book a free ticket so that they can get a rough estimate of how many people will be attending. The theme this year is superhero, so everyone has the chance to celebrate their heroes at this year's event. For a free ticket, go to wolseytheatre.co.uk. And finally, a reminder that Felixstowe Book Festival is fast approaching, with many global, award-winning and local authors to meet and chat to. It's all happening from Wednesday the 25th through to Sunday the 29th of June, with the main events at Harvest House in Felixstowe. To book your tickets, go to felixstowebookfestival.co.uk or call in to Felixstowe Library every Thursday, where you can purchase your tickets. Don't forget, you can always get in touch with us via our Facebook page. We're at Ruby Shoes Podcast. We love to hear about your forthcoming plays, your comedy nights, or any kind of show, festival, or event in East Anglia you'd like everyone to know about. Tell us so we can tell everybody else. And remember, you can always listen again to any of the Ruby Shoes podcasts via Apple or Spotify, or just simply click on the weekly podcast links on our Facebook page. Follow us there too for all the latest entertainment news where you are. I'm Steph McIntyre. Thanks for listening, and we'll chat about more live theatre and all kinds of entertainment next week. In the meantime, check out those socials. At Ruby Shoes Podcast, we're on Twitter or X, Facebook and Instagram. We'd love you to follow us there too, and make sure you have a great week.